The next topic is central nervous system. Central nervous system consists of two parts, brain and spinal cord. So when it comes to the central nervous system, brain plays a major role in all the living organisms. Starting from whatever you take mammals, if you take an elephant, tiger, whatever it may be, they work from the instructions which are passed from the brain. If a tiger wants to hunt any animal, the instruction has to come from its brain to hunt that one, because it will be feeling its hunger in the stomach. That information will be passed. When it sees a deer or any other animal, then it runs faster and it tries to kill that animal and it is going to eat that animal. Clear? Now similarly, but human brain will be different because it is highly developed, and we have been observing this we have been studying this human brain since 2000 years, and human brain has evolved a large in these past years, and we can even with the human brain is considered to be the most destructive and constructive part in this world. We can destruct with the help of our human brain. We can destruct the entire world. That means we have created atom bombs. We have created several types of nuclear weapons, etc., to destruct the world. And at the same time, we have created a history by developing the country and developing ourselves. That means we can destruct as well as construct with the help of our brain. So brain plays a major role. So let us study what is this brain and regarding this human brain. So human brain consists of the entire brain is surrounded by three layers which are known as meninges. Entire brain is enclosed in a three-layered membrane. Each membrane is known as meninges. These three layers are called as meninges, and inner layer and in between the middle layer, it consists of a fluid known as cerebrospinal fluid. In between the inner layer and middle layer, it consists of a fluid, and the fluid name is cerebrospinal fluid. It flows from the brain to the spinal cord, and it will protect the brain from physical shocks. It protects the brain from physical shocks. And apart from this meninges, the entire brain is surrounded in a bony skull, which is known as cranium. The entire brain is protected on all the sides by bony skull, and this bony skull is known as cranium. So this cranium along with the meninges protects the brain from physical injuries. The entire brain is surrounded internally by three-layered membranes known as meninges. In the meninges, the inner layer, in between the inner layer and the middle layer, it consists of a fluid known as cerebrospinal fluid. It flows from the brain to the spinal cord. That means it is continuous from the brain till the end of the spinal cord. And along with this cerebrospinal fluid, meninges and bony skull, the entire brain is surrounded by bony skull known as cranium. So this cranium, meninges, cerebrospinal fluid, all these three parts are going to protect the brain from physical shocks. If you see the structure of the entire brain will be around 1400 grams approximately in human beings, normal human beings, but it differs from females to males. In females, it will be approximately 1198 grams, and in males, it will be around 1336 grams. The weight differs, but the function will be same. The weight differs, but the function will be same. Whatever the function, whatever the brain functions in males, the similar function will be seen in females. But only thing is, the weight will be differing in males and females. Approximate weight of human being's brain is around 1400 grams, but in males and females it will be separate, that is different. And in males it will be around 1336 grams, and in females it will be around 1198 grams. 1 kg 198 grams, 1 kg 336 grams approximately in females and males respectively. And this brain alone consumes nearly 20% of oxygen which is consumed by our lungs. The entire oxygen which is taken inside our body, from that consumption, from that oxygen percentage, 20% will be alone required by our brain. 20% of oxygen, 20% of energy which is produced from the body is required by the brain to work its normal. For the brain to work normal, it requires 20% of the total oxygen taken by consumed by your body and 20% of energy which is utilized by your body. Remaining 80% will be utilized by different parts of your body. So brain mainly works on the intake of oxygen. If your intake of oxygen is high, your brain works sharply. This 1400 grams is nearly equal to 2% of your body weight. That means brain alone weighs 2% of your total body weight. Approximately, not exactly. Don't say that if a 100 kg person should have 2 kgs. Approximately it will be 2% of your total body weight. 1.8 to 2% of your total body weight. So this is the entire description of brain. Brain is surrounded by 3 layers, which is known as meninges, and it will be protected by bony skull known as cranium. Meninges, cranium and cerebrospinal fluid, which flows between the inner and middle layer, protects the brain. Brain weighs about 1400 grams, which will be differing in females and males. In females it will be 1198 grams, 1336 grams in males, and around 20% of oxygen and 20% of energy which is produced in your body will be utilized by brain itself to function normally. And oxygen intake will be oxygen utilization by brain will be around 20%, and 2% of body weight will be occupied by brain. This is the brief description regarding brain. Now, if we see the brain, the structure of brain, each brain, human being's brain, will be exactly divided into 2 halves. If you see a human being's brain, exactly in the center, there will be a deep groove separating left portion of your brain to the right portion of your brain. And this portion, each portion is called as hemisphere, which is known as cerebral hemisphere. Left cerebral hemisphere and right cerebral hemisphere. Human being's brain or any mammal's brain will be divided equally into 2 halves. Each half is known as cerebral hemisphere. The cerebral hemisphere which is present on the left side of your body is known as left cerebral hemisphere. If it is present on the right side, it is known as right cerebral hemisphere. And the most important aspect of human brain is that left cerebral hemisphere controls all the body movements of right side, and right cerebral hemisphere controls the body movements of all the organs that are present on the left side. Left cerebral hemisphere will control all the voluntary movements of and organs which are present on the right side of human being's body, and right cerebral hemisphere controls the left body parts, body organs, whatever that are present on the left side. This is the most important aspect of cerebral hemispheres. And this cerebral hemisphere will be divided into 2 equal halves. That means brain is divided into 2 equal halves, and each is called as cerebral hemisphere. Internally, each cerebral hemisphere will be again divided into 4 lobes. Each side, I am talking about single cerebral hemisphere. Each side will be divided into 4 lobes, and these 4 lobes are known as frontal, parietal, temporal and occipital. The front portion is frontal, next portion is parietal, and the bottom portion which is present behind the parietal is known as temporal, and the last portion is known as occipital. Entire brain is divided into 2 equal halves. Each half is known as cerebral hemisphere, and when we take about single cerebral hemisphere, it is again divided into 4 lobes: frontal, parietal, temporal, occipital, each of which will be having its own function. If we take the cerebral hemisphere, that is brain, it will be again divided into forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. Brain of human beings is divided into forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. Forebrain consists of cerebrum. This cerebrum acts as the center for your intelligence, speech, language, maintaining body posture. Everything, whatever that you are thinking, writing, everything will be done by cerebrum. the thinking power, knowledge, everything, to store the information, everything will be, the action will be done by cerebrum. And it consists of, all over the forebrain, it consists of olfactory lobes, which are for sensing the smell. So entire brain on the topmost region, most number of sensory organs, out of the 5 sensory organs, nerves which are present on your body, olfactory lobes, the bits which are able to see the smell, will be more in number when compared to the rest of the 4 other sensory parts. Because whenever you go through any part, any region, or when you are walking, first you will be smelling that one. Since you have more number of olfactory lobes which are spread all over your brain, smell will be, that means the most important and active sense organ which is present in human beings is olfactory, because they are more in number. You can even smell charpis, you can even smell whatever that is there in the room. First you are going to smell it. That means more number of olfactory lobes are present on the cerebrum. So that is the main reason why sense organ, namely nose, will function actively when compared to the rest. Skin, which acts as touch, will be very less when compared to smell. Eyes, ears, tongue. For the tongue to be tasted, we have to place it on the tongue. For hearing, we have to, it will take a lot. That means the sound has to travel from one place to the ear. But whereas smell, it is everywhere in the air. So olfactory lobes, since they are present in more in number on the cerebrum, the sense organ, which is namely the smell, that is nose, will be very active when compared to other sense organs. Okay. Now this cerebrum, the entire portion now which you are seeing, will be consisting of grooves and elevations. Grooves and elevations. These grooves are known as gyri, G-Y-R-I. So this entire tube-like structure, which is elevated portion, is known as gyri, G-Y-R-I, and this groove is known as sulci, S-U-L-C-I. The grooved portion is known as sulci, and the entire portion which you are seeing is known as gyri. So this gyri and sulci will increase the surface area of your brain so as to accommodate more number of neurons. They will increase the surface area of the brain so as to accommodate more number of neurons. We have billions of neurons in our brain. So to accommodate those billions of neurons, gyri and sulci will be accommodating. Clear? Now, when it comes to cerebral hemisphere, that is I told you that brain is divided into two cerebral hemispheres, cerebral hemisphere. Each cerebral hemisphere, that means 2 cerebral hemispheres, will be connected with each other by corpus callosum. Cerebral hemisphere of left side and right side has to be attached with each other to function together. So that attachment will be done by a cementing material known as corpus callosum. Corpus callosum will act as the cementing substance or the part which connects the left hemisphere to that of the right hemisphere. Left cerebral hemisphere will be connected to right cerebral hemisphere with the help of corpus callosum. So in forebrain we have seen cerebrum. Now the next portion of forebrain is diencephalon. This diencephalon consists of thalamus and hypothalamus. This diencephalon consists of, next portion of forebrain is diencephalon, which is continuous, thalamus and hypothalamus. Hypothalamus will be regulating your pituitary gland. We will study about pituitary gland in the next class. So hypothalamus will be controlling the pituitary gland. And thalamus will act as a major portion which will be acting as a relay station. Relay means to receive the information from spinal cord and to pass it to cerebrum. I told you that cerebrum is the main portion of the brain which will be generating the responses. So for the cerebrum to function, it has to receive some information. So the thalamus will be acting as a relay station to conduct the information, to receive the information and to pass to cerebrum. Relay means in between. That means, for example, in olden days, when we don't have any mobiles, when we don't have a STD booth, STD means to call to foreign countries, we will be having a telephone exchange. We used to call, in olden days, the people used to call the telephone exchange. Telephone exchange will connect to the other person who is there in other country or other city. So telephone exchange is said to be a relay station. Telephone exchange is said to be a relay station. Similarly, this thalamus acts as a relay station to receive the information and to pass the information to the cerebrum. And cerebrum also will be reacting to the temperature, cold, whatever it may be, pain, anger, etc. Similarly, thalamus will also give instruction. That means it is going to interpret the reaction, interpret your muscular activities. That means it is going to receive and interpret some of the muscular activities, as well as it is going to act mainly during the hunger, sleeping time, etc. For you to, if you are feeling sleepy, this thalamus will become active. If you are feeling hunger, thalamus will become active. Okay. So next, hypothalamus will be controlling mainly your pituitary gland, which is present in the below the brain. Next is midbrain. Midbrain main function is not known yet, but it consists of the neurons which are axons which are coming from the forebrain. Axons which are coming from the forebrain. And midbrain will be continued as hindbrain. This hindbrain consists of two parts, namely cerebellum and medulla oblongata. Cerebellum will be controlling all the voluntary movements of your body. Now I am writing. It is under the control of cerebellum. Thinking is under the control of cerebrum. Voluntary movements are under the control of cerebellum. And all the involuntary actions, just like heartbeat, your kidneys functioning, your digestion process, everything will be under the control of your medulla oblongata. That means involuntary actions. Swallowing. Only swallowing is voluntary. You swallow your food up to here. That is voluntary. That will be done by cerebellum. Is it clear? Now after you swallow, once the food is swallowed, it has to pass through the esophagus and it has to reach the stomach. That part will be done by medulla oblongata. That function will be done by medulla oblongata. That means voluntary actions will be under the control of cerebellum and involuntary actions will be under the control of medulla oblongata. In this entire brain, the topmost portion will be grey in color and innermost portion will be white in color. That means grey matter will be in the brain. Grey matter will be present on the topper layers and white matter will be present in the inner layers. That is mainly because the cell bodies will be present on the upper layers. We have seen the cell structure, structure of neuron. So whatever the cell body cyton is present, they are present on the upper layer. And axons which are arising from the cyton, they will be present in the inner layers. So since axons are myelated sheets, which will be considered myelin sheet, so myelated axons will be white in color. So the inside layer of the brain will be white in color, and since cell bodies or cytons are present on the topmost layer, that will be present in grey color. So grey matter in the brain will be on the top portion and white matter will be present in the inner layer. Axons will be present in that means all the cytons which are present in your brain will be present on the topmost layer, and axons which are coming from the cytons will be bundled together and it will be forming as a nerve. Those nerves will be white in color and they will be present in the deeper parts of your body. Is it clear? And this portion, that is diencephalon, diencephalon is actually a rhombus shaped structure. Diencephalon is a rhombus shaped structure, and this thalamus will be, hindbrain will be in triangular in shape. Here, this portion, triangular in shape. Diencephalon will be rhombus in shape and this thalamus will be triangular in shape. Is it clear? So this is about human brain. And from the brain, we have 12 pairs of nerves which will be arising. They are called as cranial nerves. We have totally 43 pairs of nerves which are arising from brain and spinal cord. out of which 12 nerves are called as cranial nerves and 31 pairs of spinal nerves will be arising from the spinal cord. The nerves which arise from the brain are called cranial nerves. The nerves which arise from the spinal cord are called as from the spinal cord on either sides the nerves will arise. Those nerves are called as spinal nerves. They will be 31 in pairs. 12 pairs of cranial nerves. Right? 12 pairs of cranial nerves will arise from the brain and 31 pairs of spinal nerves will arise from the spinal cord. So total 43 pairs of nerves are present in human being. And when it comes to spinal cord, the next portion, that is medulla oblongata, is the last portion of your brain which will be continued as spinal cord. In the transverse section of spinal cord, you can clearly see a butterfly shaped structure which is present exactly in the center, which indicates that in the brain, in the spinal cord it will be reversed, that is white matter will be present on the outer layer and grey matter will be present in the inner layer. In brain, grey matter will be present in the outer layers and white matter will be present in the inner layers. So H-shaped butterfly shaped structure will be known as grey matter. The rest of the portion is known as white matter. And there are two scientists who have observed the study of brain and spinal cord, whereas Leonardo da Vinci and Stephen Hales, these are the two scientists who worked on the brain. They have worked on the brain of frog, brain and spinal cord of frog. What they observed is they have removed the entire brain from the frog, but still when they pricked the spinal cord, the movements were there. That means spinal cord will also act as a working function and it is going to pass the information to the body parts. Apart from brain, since brain has 12 pairs and spinal cord has 31 pairs, that means spinal cord will also involve in movement of your muscles in the body. This spinal nerves will be more active during the reflex actions. Whenever you are when you are stepping on a stone or stepping on a hot water or something, you will remove immediately from the place. You are going to withdraw your leg or hand, whatever it may be, which is going to touch the hot part. That means that information will be coming from the spinal nerves, spinal cord. The information will not be passed to the cerebrum, all this part, and it is not going to think over and it is not going to give response. Immediate response will be given by spinal cord. So they have proved, that is Leonardo da Vinci and Stephen Hales has proved that apart by removing the brain of a frog, the spinal cord is still working and it is giving some information, passing some message to the parts of the body, that is muscles of the body. That indicates that spinal cord will also give response and it will take the information from the body parts and it is going to give response accordingly. And two other scientists, Bell and Francois, these two scientists have also observed the spinal cord that it consists of, inside the grey matter, it consists of two horns, namely dorsal horn and ventral horn. Dorsal side, that means this is dorsal side and this is ventral side. So the nerves, this is the transverse section of your spinal cord. Okay, this portion which is facing front portion, the nerves which are the horns which are present on the dorsal side are called dorsal horns, and then the horns which are present on the ventral side are called as ventral horns. They clearly observed that dorsal horns are acting as sensory nerves. That means they are going to take the information from the sense organs, and ventral nerves are going to pass the information. That means they are involved in motor activities. That means giving response. They have taken out the dorsal horn. They have removed the dorsal horn. They have observed the movement of activity in muscles. It did not work. when they, that means they have come to a conclusion that dorsal horns are going to receive the information from the sense organs and ventral horns are going to pass the information whether to move or to be there. That means activities of muscles will be passed by ventral horn. Dorsal horn receives the information from central. That means it is incoming. Incoming information will be taken by dorsal horn. The response will be given by ventral horn. So this is about the spinal cord. Peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system consists of your spinal cord, which will be, that is nerves, cranial nerves and spinal nerves. So spinal nerves which will be 31 pairs, and out of the 31 pairs